On a cold, damp evening in mid-January, in the early 1990s, the London road through Greenhithe in Kent looked like any other ordinary stretch of road. The air was heavy with drizzle, the streetlights reflecting on wet tarmac, and most people were already indoors, trying to stay warm. A man named Michael Godfrey was driving along that road with his colleague Ron. As their car rolled past the houses and shops, Michael noticed something on the pavement ahead, right by the entrance to a narrow alley. At first glance, it just looked like someone crouched down, maybe tying a shoe. But as the car drew closer, he saw that the figure was on their knees, slumped forward, clearly in distress. Michael pulled over immediately. Ron jumped out and ran towards a nearby pub to call the emergency services, while Michael went to the person on the ground. He saw a teenage girl, struggling to breathe, trying to pull air into her lungs. For a moment, he thought she might have been hit by a car, that this was a terrible traffic accident. He tried to keep her still, worried she might have spinal injuries, and gently helped her to lie back. As he did, he realized something was very wrong. Her breathing was shallow, faltering, and she was clearly in critical trouble. Within moments, her chest stopped rising. Michael started chest compressions, trying desperately to keep her alive until help arrived. Strangers passed by, glancing over, not yet understanding that this was not a minor incident, but the final moments of a young life. When paramedics arrived, they took over from Michael. As they started working on her, they could finally see the extent of her injuries. This was not a hit and run. This was a brutal, frenzied knife attack. The girl on the pavement was bleeding heavily, and despite everything the emergency team tried to do, there was nothing that could bring her back. That evening, just after 7 o'clock, only 4 days after her 16th birthday, 16-year-old schoolgirl Clare Tiltman was pronounced dead. You are watching Disturbed Intent. Before we go deeper into Clare's story, take a moment to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, and hit the subscribe button. It helps more people hear about cold cases like Clare's, and it supports the channel so we can keep telling these stories with the care they deserve. Back in Greenhithe, the news traveled quickly. A young girl had been murdered near the London road. At Clare's grammar school, students were on staggered timetables because of mock examinations, so people were arriving and leaving at different times. In one classroom, a pupil named Joanne sat listening to the radio when a bulletin came on air. A teenage girl had been killed in Greenhithe. The rumors spread through the corridors like wildfire. A 16-year-old named Clare had been murdered, but for a moment no one knew for sure if it was their Clare. Then the head teacher appeared, came into the room, and switched off the radio. The silence that followed said more than any broadcast ever could. The year head walked in with a police officer. He was visibly emotional, struggling to get the words out. Finally, he told the class that their friend and classmate, 16-year-old Clare Tiltman, had been murdered. The shock in that room, in that school, in that community, was absolute. To her friends, Clare was sunshine in human form. She was described as a bright, shining star, the kind of person people naturally gravitated towards. Her friends called her Tilt. She was funny, feisty, and loyal. She loved dancing around to the music of her favorite bands, like Queen and INXS. She was the sort of girl who filled a room with energy the second she walked in. Clare was an only child, deeply close to her parents, Cliff and Linda. They adored her, and she adored them right back. She had recently completed her mock general certificate exams and had big dreams of the future. She wanted to become a firefighter and had even started volunteering with the local fire service as part of her Duke of Edinburgh award. She was not just thinking about herself, she was already looking for ways to help others. On the evening of her death, the 18th of January in the year 1993, Clare left her home on Woodward Terrace and walked down the London road towards Greenhithe. She was heading to her friend Victoria's house so they could talk about college options and what might come after their exams. Along the way, she stopped into a local off-license to buy cigarettes. Like many parents of teenagers, Clare's mom and dad had always been protective of her, but now that she was 16, they were slowly giving her more independence. It was a small, normal step in growing up, and no one imagined it would end this way. After the attack, the police sealed off the area. Officers and forensic teams combed the scene, searching for any trace of evidence. They quickly established that the attack had taken place in an alley just off the London road, a short distance from where Michael had found Clare collapsed. Despite the intensity of the search, there was very little forensic evidence to work with. No clear weapon left behind, no obvious trace that pointed to a name. With so little physical evidence, investigators started to lean towards a disturbing theory that Clare may have been killed by someone she knew. Residents in the area, especially teenage girls and their parents, were terrified. Greenhithe was not the kind of place that expected a random, frenzied knife attack on a schoolgirl. Witnesses reported seeing a man in a light-colored jacket walking near the scene around the time Clare would have been attacked. It was a vague description, but it was something. The police issued appeals, asking anyone who had been in the area to come forward to think carefully about what they had seen. Then investigators uncovered something that made the entire case even more chilling. This was not the first time a violent attack had happened in that area. In late December of the late 1980s, a 27-year-old woman was heading home from a night shift. As she traveled, she was ambushed by a man armed with both a knife and a gun. He abducted her and took her to a nearby quarry. There, he cut her clothes, posed her in degrading ways, and took photographs. He gagged her and repeatedly threatened her with the weapon. He tried to rape her multiple times and then strangled her with a tie that eventually broke. He stabbed her in the back, left her believing she would die, and covered her with debris before running away into the darkness. Somehow, against all odds, she survived. She lay outside in the freezing cold overnight. By morning, she had just enough strength to crawl and signal to quarry workers, who raised the alarm. She spent days in intensive care. It was a horror most people could barely imagine, and for the police now looking at Clare's murder, it raised a chilling question. Could the person who attacked that woman in the quarry be the same person who had now murdered 16-year-old Clare? The day after Clare's murder, the police received a call from a man who said that he had been driving in the area. He claimed to have seen a man with dark, curly hair near a zebra crossing not far from the scene, around early evening. When investigators interviewed him a week later, his story had shifted. Now he claimed he had seen someone walking on London Road slightly earlier, between late afternoon and early evening, while delivering leaflets with his mother, a local counselor. They had then returned to their home on Milton Street. The details felt slippery, everything slightly off. As the days turned into weeks, more than 200 people attended Clare's funeral. The service was held at a crematorium in southeast London, with wreaths, flowers, and tributes from friends, teachers, neighbors, and members of the Royal British Legion where Clare's family socialized. Some of the detectives working on the case attended too, not just as officers, but as human beings deeply affected by her murder. For Cliff and Linda, the grief was unbearable. As they sat through their only child's funeral, another thought haunted them. What if the person who had killed their daughter was in that room with them? Looking around, they saw many familiar faces, but there were also people they did not know well. The unease was suffocating. They later admitted that they could not shake the feeling that their daughter's killer might have been hidden among the mourners. The police believed that was a real possibility. Officers attended the funeral and the wake not just to pay their respects, but to watch, to see if anyone behaved strangely, if anyone stood out. They were looking for a killer who might be arrogant or cold enough to stand in the crowd, listening to the grief they had caused. Clare's parents made public appeals, speaking to reporters through tears, begging whoever knew something to come forward. They spoke openly about their anger, their devastation, and the simple truth that they would never be able to forgive the person who had done this. They were not seeking revenge, they were seeking justice, and they were living with the unbearable knowledge that whoever had killed their daughter might still be walking those same streets. If you are still with me, thank you for watching Disturbed Intent. These stories are heavy, but they matter. If you want more people to learn about Clare's case and others like it, please like this video, drop a comment for Clare and her family, and hit the subscribe button if you have not already. It genuinely helps. As the investigation continued, the police looked outward and backward. They explored other serious crimes in the region, including sexually motivated attacks and knife assaults. The potential link to the quarry attack remained in the background. Then, in the mid-1990s, the worst fears of the community were realized. There was another attack. In October of the year 1995, only a few minutes from where Clare had been killed, a woman was walking under a bridge known locally as the Arches. A man approached her, grabbed her, and dragged her across the road. He stabbed her repeatedly in a vicious assault that echoed the frenzied violence inflicted on Clare. Miraculously, she survived. When she fell to her knees and screamed, she later said she did it hoping he might stop. For reasons no one fully understands, he did. She was not able to give a clear description of her attacker. But someone else noticed something important: a distinctive white Ford car near the scene. That car belonged to a local milkman named Colin Ash Smith, a man who had already been interviewed more than once in relation to the murder of Clare Tiltman. On paper, Colin looked almost unremarkable. He lived with his parents, Diana and Aubrey. His mother was a local councillor and had served as mayor. He had a girlfriend. He worked, socialized at the Royal British Legion Club, and did not stand out as particularly threatening. But behind closed doors, there was another side to him. Colin rarely went anywhere without carrying a knife. When investigators obtained a warrant and searched the family home, they found a knife that matched the one used in the more recent attack near the Arches. That was disturbing enough. Then they found something even more chilling: a diary Colin had been keeping since the late 1980s. Inside that diary, Colin wrote in cold, analytical language about his attacks and plans. He admitted to being responsible for the quarry attack. He described it as a masterpiece and rated it as nearly completely successful. When he realized through news reports that his victim had survived, he vowed in those pages to do a better job next time. He wrote about a piece of tie that had broken while he was strangling her. Investigators later found that tie fragment, along with other evidence, including clothing stained with blood, linked to the earlier attack. The diary entries told a story of obsession, violence, and a mind that took pleasure in control and cruelty. Colin even wrote about how he had phoned the police himself after one of his attacks, giving them partial information and claiming that if the victim gave any description of him, he would kill a schoolgirl. He wrote about other women he stalked, breaking into homes, cutting up night dresses, and fantasizing about rape and murder. He gave his operations names and percentages, as if he were running projects rather than destroying lives. Yet, there was one thing missing from those diary entries: direct mention of Clare. Colin admitted to the quarry attack and the later stabbing near the Arches. He was convicted for both, and, in December of the year 1996, he received multiple life sentences. He was behind bars, officially, for those crimes. But to those who had looked into Clare's murder, that did not close the story. If anything, it made the question louder. Was this man also responsible for killing 16-year-old Clare Tiltman? The police had long suspected him, but there was a major obstacle. He appeared to have an alibi. On the night of Clare's murder, his mother, the town mayor, claimed that he had been with her delivering leaflets. It was her position, her status, and her word that had helped shield him from being charged with the earlier crime. Over time, that alibi began to collapse. It emerged that Colin's father, Aubrey, had known his son carried a knife and, after Clare's murder, had taken that knife and destroyed it. Years later, he admitted to boiling the knife, dismantling it, and throwing it away. For that act, he was sentenced to time in prison for perverting the course of justice. Outside court, Colin's parents insisted they had nothing to do with Clare's death and that their son was innocent of her murder. But Clare's parents were convinced that Colin was the one who had killed their daughter. Even more unsettling, it emerged that Colin had attended Clare's funeral. He had been part of the same social circle. He had been at the Royal British Legion Club when Clare's 16th birthday was celebrated. He knew her parents and even offered support to them after her death. At one point, when questioned in the mid-1990s, Colin told police that he recognized the description of a man seen near the scene on the night of the murder. He claimed it matched someone he knew from the club, someone who played pool and knew Clare, someone who had moved shortly after the murder. He could not remember this person's name, he said, but he would know the street where he used to live. The man Colin pointed to was later completely ruled out. Police began to suspect that Colin was not helping. He was deliberately trying to throw them off, pushing them towards an innocent person. Years passed. The quarry attack, the Arches attack, and the murder of Clare were all real. The man who had carried out the first two was locked up, but the murder of Clare remained unsolved on paper. Her parents, Cliff and Linda, never stopped speaking about their daughter, writing cards to her teachers, reminding people that she was not just a victim, but a girl with dreams and a future. Her school friends continued to send Christmas cards to her parents. In their home, Cliff and Linda kept Clare's last school photograph on the wall. They also displayed a plaque from the fire station that recognized her volunteer work and a photograph of Detective Owen Taylor, the officer who had led the investigation into their daughter's murder, who had since passed away. The police even put up a memorial plaque in both Clare's and the detective's honor. Then, the law changed. In the early 2000s, the Criminal Justice Act came into force, allowing juries in some circumstances to hear about a defendant's previous bad character. That meant that in certain trials, the jury could be told about earlier convictions and disturbing behavior if the court decided it was fair and relevant. For years, legal professionals wrestled with how to interpret and apply that change. But in Clare's case, it opened a door that had previously been locked. Tragically, Clare's parents did not live to see that door open. In the late 2000s, Linda died of cancer in her mid-50s. A few years later, on the anniversary of Clare's death, Cliff gave an emotional interview, saying he would never give up hope of seeing justice. He said Clare had been everything to them, that losing her had broken their family. He spoke about how much he missed her and how lonely he felt now that both his daughter and his wife were gone. Not long after that interview, Cliff also passed away. Detectives who had spent years on the case were heartbroken that he had gone to his grave without knowing what would happen next. But they did not stop. They kept working the case, determined that Clare and her parents would not be forgotten. On the 20th anniversary of Clare's murder, friends and supporters organized a candlelit walk along the route she took that night from her home towards the alley where she was attacked. They carried candles and photographs, determined to keep her name alive. Even the serving prime minister at the time publicly supported the appeal for information, promising that the government would do what it could to help. Behind the scenes, a cold case review was underway. Detectives revisited every statement, every lead, every piece of evidence. They looked again at Colin's diary. They reconsidered his behavior before and after the attacks. They spoke to people who had been in prison with him. One of those men was called Stefan. He told investigators that Colin had once talked about a location near a zebra crossing, mentioning being close to one when he attacked someone. That detail rang alarm bells. The quarry attack and the Arches attack were not near zebra crossings, but Clare's murder was. In the early 2010s, detectives launched another search of Colin's family home. They removed items for examination, including a newspaper that marked the one-year anniversary of Clare's murder, which Colin had kept. Because of the change in the law around bad character evidence, prosecutors could now, potentially, show a jury not just what Colin had been convicted of, but also his own words from his diaries, his disturbing fantasies, his admitted obsessions, and the clear pattern across his violence. A senior prosecutor later explained that they could not build a case only on bad character. That would not be fair. But in Clare's case, they believed that the similarities between the attacks, combined with Colin's behavior, the timing, the location, and what he had written and said, formed a powerful picture. In late 2012, after reviewing the evidence and the new context provided by the law, the Crown Prosecution Service announced that there was now enough evidence and that it was in the public interest to charge Colin Ash Smith with the murder of Clare Tiltman. He was charged in the early 2010s, on the same day he was due to be considered for release on his existing life sentences. If you are getting value from this deep dive into the case, please remember to like, comment, and hit the subscribe button. It helps more people discover Disturbed Intent and keeps these stories alive. Colin's trial began at the Inner London Crown Court in early November of the mid-2010 decade. The prosecution argued that he was a ruthless and predatory killer who gained a warped sense of pleasure and power from stabbing his victims. They described Clare's murder as a killing for the sake of killing, carried out quickly and silently, leaving her no time to defend herself or escape. In court, Colin spoke about his so-called midnight walks. He said that as a young man, he would wait until his parents were asleep, then go out into the night carrying a knife. He admitted that he would walk around hoping to find someone, hoping to provoke a confrontation, wanting the feeling of control. When asked why he had attacked the woman at the quarry, he said that he wanted to feel empowered, that he was tired of feeling like a doormat. He admitted owning a collection of knives, numbering in the dozens, along with weapons like a crossbow and air guns. He showed them off to colleagues and acquaintances, proud of this arsenal. The jury heard about his diary entries, now admissible, where he described attacks and plans in cold, almost clinical language. They heard how he rated his own crimes like projects, how he fantasized about abducting women from train stations, how he broke into homes and cut up clothing, how he had targeted women connected to people he knew. They also heard about his behavior after Clare's murder, how he had attended her funeral, how he had stopped going to the British Legion Club because her photographs were on the wall, how he had continued to insert himself into the narrative around her death, at one point claiming that he wanted to kill whoever had killed Clare, even as he was being looked at as a suspect. The defense tried to argue that the evidence was circumstantial, that the diary was about other crimes and fantasies, not about Clare. They questioned witnesses, including the former inmate, Stefan, who now said his memory was less clear than he had once stated. He suggested he might have mixed up details from conversations with different prisoners. The court also heard that Colin's mother had gone to police briefings as a counselor and repeatedly asked about a vehicle linked to the case, which some interpreted as an attempt to gauge how close investigators were to her son. In the end, though, the prosecution's case did not rest on any one single piece of evidence. It was about the pattern, the quarry attack, the Arches attack, the obsession with knives, the diary entries, the false phone call to police after Clare's murder, the destroyed knife, the proximity to the scene, the attendance at the funeral, the similar, motiveless, frenzied nature of the attacks, the way he hunted in that area, over and over again. After a trial that lasted several weeks, the jury retired to consider their verdict. It did not take them long. In early December of the mid-2010 decade, after only a few hours of deliberation, the jury returned to court. They found Colin Ash Smith guilty of the murder of 16-year-old Clare Tiltman. Colin showed little to no emotion as the verdict was read. He then refused to return to court for sentencing and refused to listen to the victim impact statements that were read on behalf of Clare's friends and family. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment with a long minimum term before he could even be considered for release. The judge said that he had no doubt this was a premeditated killing carried out because of the feeling of power it gave Colin. He acknowledged the unbearable grief and devastation the murder had caused Clare's family and friends, and he praised those who had sat through the trial with dignity, even as they relived the worst moments of their lives. Although Clare's parents had passed away before the trial, her friends made sure they were there in spirit. They brought photographs of Cliff and Linda to court and kept them close during the proceedings. They wanted the court and the world to remember not just that a girl had been murdered, but that an entire family had been destroyed. One of Clare's closest friends spoke about how deeply Clare loved her parents, how strong their bond had been, and how much potential had been stolen. Her uncle talked about how all their hopes and dreams for Clare had ended the night she was killed. Colin later tried to appeal his conviction, arguing that the judge had allowed unfairly prejudicial material to be shown to the jury. The Court of Appeal dismissed his case, calling it unarguable. His conviction for Clare's murder stands. The investigation into Clare's death was one of the largest ever undertaken by Kent police. Thousands of statements were taken, thousands of people were interviewed. For decades, officers refused to let go of the case, even when leads dried up and the years kept moving. Some of those officers retired before the case was solved. Others lived to see the verdict they had always believed would one day come. In the years since the conviction, the community has continued to remember Clare. A road has been named in her honor. A memorial bench stands for her. Roses have been planted in her name. An eco-center for children and young people now carries her name too, turning something rooted in tragedy into a place where new generations can learn, grow, and feel safe. At its heart, though, this story is not only about the brutality of one man's actions, it is about persistence, about the determination of friends who refused to let their classmates' name fade, about police officers who would not file the case away and forget it, about a community that turned out, year after year, to walk in Clare's memory and demand justice. It is also about loss that cannot truly be mended. Clare never became the firefighter she wanted to be. She never got to choose a college, start a career, fall in love, or have a family of her own. Cliff and Linda never saw their daughter grow into the adult she was meant to become. That future is gone, frozen on that cold January night when a knife in the hands of a man who liked to feel powerful took everything from her. But because people refused to forget, because they spoke her name, because they kept telling her story, Clare's case did not stay unsolved forever. The man who killed her is no longer free to walk the streets. That is not enough to balance the scales, but it is something. If you have watched all the way to this point, thank you. Stories like this are not easy to sit with, but they matter. On Disturbed Intent, we tell them not for shock value, but to honor the victims and to recognize the work it takes to bring justice, even when it is delayed by years or decades. If you would like to support this channel and help more people hear Clare's story and others like it, please take a second to like this video, leave a respectful comment for Clare and her family, and hit the subscribe button. Share this video with someone who cares about true crime and about justice. Your engagement helps push these stories into the light, where they belong. This has been Disturbed Intent. Remember Clare Tiltman, remember her life, and remember that behind every headline is a human being whose story deserved a different ending.